Tonight, our spirits travel back to the ancient world, to the healing steam and marble halls of the Roman baths. But first, come in from the cold darkness outside, shake off the weight of the day, and step into the warmth. You are safe here, in the library. The fire is crackling low, and the world cannot find you here. I have found the specific volume for tonight, waiting on the desk. It is bound in smooth, pale leather, cool to the touch like polished stone. As I turn the heavy cover, the scent of old paper rises, inviting you in. Let us begin. The sun hangs high and heavy in the cerulean sky, a golden weight that presses down upon the 7 hills of Rome. It is a heat that has substance, a thick and shimmering blanket that wraps around every column, every statue, and every weary traveller. Here, on the Via Appia, the air itself seems to vibrate with the intensity of the late afternoon. You can feel the warmth radiating upwards from the polygonal basalt blocks beneath your feet, massive stones that have baked in this fierce Italian light since the morning hours, absorbing the fire of the day until they are hot enough to scorch the souls of the unwary. There is a rhythm to walking this road, a slow and hypnotic cadence dictated by the crowd. You are drifting in a river of humanity, shoulder to shoulder with the people of the eternal city. The air is thick, not just with heat, but with the dust of 10,000 footsteps. It rises in slow, lazy swirls, a fine golden powder that catches the light and turns the world into a hazy, dreamlike painting. You can taste the grit of it on your lips, a dry mineral taste that speaks of the earth and the ancient ground. It settles in the folds of your linen tunic, turning the white fabric to a soft beige, and it clings to the sweat on your brow. The sounds of the city are all around you, but in the oppressive heat they seem muffled, as if coming from a great distance or heard through a heavy velvet curtain. There is the low, constant drone of conversation, a tapestry of Latin dialects woven together into a single humming note. You hear the rhythmic slap of leather sandals on the hard stone, a sound like a slow heartbeat. Occasionally the heavy wooden wheel of a cart groans against an axle that needs oiling, a deep, mournful creak that echoes briefly before being swallowed by the humid air. A street vendor, his face hidden in the shadow of a wide straw hat, calls out the price of warm wine and watered vinegar, but his voice is lethargic, slowed by the sun. The smells are rich and complex, a sensory map of the empire. There is the sharp, pungent scent of roasted garlic drifting from a nearby tavern, mingling with the sweet, cloying aroma of ripe figs that have burst in the heat. You catch the earthy smell of mules and horses, the tang of unwashed bodies, and the underlying omnipresent scent of dry stone and pine resin. It is an overwhelming, intoxicating mixture, a reminder that life here is vibrant, chaotic, and relentlessly present. but as the sweat trickles down your back, mimicking the slow path of a tear, you find yourself longing for escape. You long for stillness. You long for water. And then you lift your eyes from the dusty road, squinting against the glare of the sun. There, rising above the haze like a mountain range carved by human hands, you see it. The massive, imposing silhouette of the baths. It dominates the horizon, a fortress of red brick and white marble that seems too large to be real. It blocks out a portion of the sky, a testament to the power of the emperor and the genius of Roman engineering. Even from this distance, the structure feels cool. It is a psychological promise, a beacon of relief standing firm against the assault of the afternoon sun. The sheer scale of it is humbling. The walls rise up tier upon tier, punctuated by great arched windows that look like dark, unblinking eyes. You can see the shimmer of heat waves rising off the vast copper roof, distorting the air around it so that the building seems to breathe, expanding and contracting in the light. The red brick, the color of dried clay and deep earth, glows with an inner fire, contrasting sharply with the brilliant white travertine and marble that frames the entrances. It is a monument to geometry, to the perfect order of the arch and the dome, standing in stark contrast to the chaotic, organic sprawl of the wooden tenements and shops that cling to its base like barnacles on a whale. As you walk towards it, the building grows, filling your vision until there is nothing else, just the red wall and the promise of what lies within. Your pace quickens, just slightly, drawn by the invisible magnetic pull of the sanctuary. The noise of the street seems to fall away, irrelevant now in the face of this architectural giant. You are approaching the boundary between the profane world of dust and labor and the sacred world of water and leisure. You reach the outer perimeter, the great boundary wall that separates the complex from the city. The shadow of the gate looms over you, a welcome respite that falls across your face like a cool hand. You step out of the blinding sunlight and into the shade of the colonnade. The transition is instant and profound. It is as if you have stepped through a veil between worlds. The moment you cross the threshold, the roaring heat of the Via Appia vanishes, severed as if by a knife. In its place is a sudden, shocking coolness. The air here is still and heavy, but it is a different kind of heaviness. It is not the crushing weight of the sun, but the dense, quiet weight of stone and shadow. The acoustics change immediately. The dull roar of the city outside is cut off, replaced by a vast, cavernous silence that amplifies every small sound. Your own footsteps, previously lost in the din of the street, now ring out with startling clarity against the marble floor. Click, click, click. The sound echoes, bouncing off the high vaulted ceilings, taking seconds to fade away into the upper reaches of the darkness. You pause, letting your eyes adjust to the dim light. The glare of the outside world is gone, replaced by a soft, diffused gloom that is gentle on the tired mind. The smell of the street, the garlic, the animals, the dust is erased. Here, the air smells of wet stone, of cool dampness, of olive oil and scented unguents. There is a faint, metallic tang of water, vast quantities of it, waiting in the chambers beyond. You run your hand along a column of polished granite. It is cold to the touch, a smooth, glassy cold that seeps into your fingertips and sends a shiver of pleasure up your arm. The stone feels solid, eternal, indifferent to the burning world you have just left behind. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the cooler air, feeling the dust of the road being washed from your throat. The silence here is not empty. It is full of presence. It is a hushed, reverent silence, like that of a temple, demanding that you slow down, that you lower your voice, that you leave the chaos of Rome at the door and surrender to the embrace of the water. You push aside the heavy fabric curtain that guards the entrance, the wool rough and thick against your palm, and step into the Apodyterium. The change is immediate, a further deepening of the silence you found in the outer colonnade. If the courtyard was a whisper, this room is a held breath. It is a vast, vaulted chamber, the ceiling lost in shadows high above, where the air hangs still and cool, untouched by the currents of the outside world. The walls are lined with rows of rectangular niches, carved deep into the stone like the cells of a honeycomb. Some are empty, dark little caves of shadow, while others are filled with the folded tunics and cloaks of those who have already descended into the waters. There is a specific smell here, a scent that belongs only to this room. It is the aroma of polished wood, of old cedar and oak, mingled with the faint, waxy scent of the olive oil that is rubbed into the benches to keep them smooth. Underneath that, there is a ghost of a smell, the very faint human scent of skin that has been warmed by the sun and is now cooling in the shade. It is not unpleasant. Rather, it feels lived in, a scent of intimacy and privacy. Running down the centre of the room and along the walls are low wooden benches. They are dark with age, the grain of the wood worn down to a satin finish by the contact of 10,000 bodies over the years. You approach the nearest bench, the wood creaking softly, a low groan of timber settling under weight as you sit. The surface is cool and solid beneath you, a grounding sensation that signals the beginning of the ritual. The stone walls seem to absorb the light, reflecting it back as a soft grey luminescence that softens the edges of everything in the room. Dust motes dance in the few shafts of light that pierce the high, lunette windows, swirling in slow motion, suspended in the heavy air. You reach down to your feet, your fingers finding the leather straps of your sandals. The leather is warm, having absorbed the heat of the Via Appia, and it feels stiff with the dust of the road. You find the buckle, the metal cool against your thumb, and with a slow, deliberate pull, you undo the fastening. The leather slackens. It is a small physical release, but it feels monumental. The strap falls away from your ankle, leaving a pale mark on your skin where it had pressed tight all day. You slide your foot out of the sandal, placing your bare sole onto the floor. The stone floor is cold. It is a shocking, delightful chill that travels up through the arch of your foot, sending a signal to your entire body that the time for labor is over. You repeat the process with the other foot, the second sandal joining the first with a soft clatter on the stone. Now you stand up, the wood of the bench releasing you. Your hands move to the fibula at your shoulder, the bronze pin that holds your world together. You unhook it, feeling the weight of the fabric shift. You let the heavy wool cloak slide from your shoulders. It falls in a heavy rustle, pooling around your ankles like a shadow you have finally outrun. The air of the room touches your arms now, cool and caressing, a stark contrast to the stifling heat that has clung to you since dawn. Next is the tunic. You untie the belt at your waist, the knot giving way with a soft sigh of fabric against fabric. As you pull the linen garment over your head, the world goes momentarily dark, muffled by the cloth, before you emerge into the dim light, skin exposed to the air. You fold the tunic slowly. This is not just a shedding of clothes, it is a shedding of identity. The tunic that marks you as a merchant, a senator, or a laborer is placed into the niche. The belt that holds your coin purse, the weight of your commerce and your responsibilities, is set aside. Here, in the dim light of the Apodyterium, the hierarchies of Rome dissolve. Without the purple stripe or the rough wool, a man is just a man, made of muscle and bone and breath. You feel lighter, physically and spiritually. The tension that you have carried in your shoulders, the hunch of protecting yourself against the city crowds, begins to melt away. You are no longer a cog in the empire's vast machine. You are simply a body waiting to be cleansed. You look down at your feet, at the cold surface that supports you. The floor is not merely stone, it is a canvas. In the soft gloom, the floor comes alive with 1,000,000 tiny pieces of tesserae, black and white stones hand-cut and laid with obsessive precision. The mosaic spreads out beneath you like a petrified ocean, a carpet of geometry and myth. Your eyes trace the patterns, the white stones glowing faintly in the half-light, the black stones drinking in the shadows. Directly beneath your feet, the artist has created the illusion of water. Wavy lines of black tesserae undulate across a white background, mimicking the rhythmic swelling of the sea. It is dizzying if you stare at it too long, a static image that suggests constant fluid motion. As your gaze travels further, you see the inhabitants of this stone sea. To your left, a great dolphin arcs rocks through the imaginary waves. The artist has captured the creature in mid-leap, its body curved in a perfect crescent of joy. You can see the detail in the eye, a single circular stone of obsidian that seems to watch you with a playful intelligence. The snout is long and elegant, the fins rendered with sharp, angular tiles that suggest speed and power. Nearby, a trident, the symbol of Neptune, stands upright, entwined with seagrass. The grass is depicted with lighter, greenish stones, a rare splash of subtle colour amidst the monochrome, suggesting the swaying of weeds in a deep current. And there, near the entrance to the next room, is a hippocampus, a seahorse with the upper body of a steed and the coiled, scaled tail of a fish. Its mane is wild, rendered in jagged spikes of black stone, as if thrashing against the foam. You take a step and then another, feeling the texture of the mosaic under your bare soles. It is smooth, polished by centuries of feet, but it is not perfectly flat. You can feel the slight unevenness of the individual stones, the tiny ridges of the grout lines between them. It is a tactile map, a message read through the skin of your feet. Every step is a connection to the craftsmanship of the past, to the hands that placed these stones one by one, kneeling in the dust long before the water flowed. The mosaic guides you. The fish and the waves are all swimming in one direction, flowing towards the arched doorway at the far end of the room. They are the silent ushers, pointing the way deeper into the complex. They promise that the dry, symbolic ocean of the floor will soon give way to the true, enveloping embrace of the water. You stand there for a moment longer, a solitary figure in the quiet, breathing in the smell of cedar and stone, letting the sight of the stone dolphins prepare your mind for the immersion to come. You are naked, you are silent, and you are ready. You step from the dim, hushed sanctuary of the changing room and move towards the light. The transition is not abrupt, but gentle, a slow unveiling of warmth as you pass through the archway and into the Palaestra. Here, the roof opens up to the heavens, framing a perfect square of the late afternoon sky, a deep, resonant blue that seems to vibrate against the stark white marble of the surrounding columns. The air here is different. It is no longer the still, damp air of the stone chambers, nor is it the choking, dusty heat of the street. It is a cultivated warmth, a golden, radiant heat trapped within the high walls, still and heavy like a held breath. Your bare foot leaves the smooth, cold certainty of the mosaic floor and meets the ground of the courtyard. It is a sudden, textural shift that sends a ripple of sensation up your legs. You are standing on sand. It is deep, soft, and yielding, a thick carpet of fine grains that have been raked and warmed by the sun all day long. As you put your weight down, your foot sinks slightly, the sand parting and then collapsing around your toes, hugging the arch of your foot. It is warm, a dry, comforting heat that seeps into your skin, contrasting sharply with the memory of the cold stone you just left. You take a slow step and then another. The sand shifts with a soft, dry sound, a whisper of friction that accompanies your movement. It feels granular and abrasive in a pleasant way, scrubbing gently at your soles, grounding you to the earth. The surface is uneven, marked by the divots and mounds of previous footsteps, a landscape of activity that changes with every hour. You can feel the heat radiating upwards, baking your shins, a physical invitation to movement, to the awakening of the muscles that have been dormant and stiff from the day's toil. The courtyard is not empty, but it possesses a strange, hypnotic tranquility. Around you, other figures move in the golden haze, stripped of their rank and robes, reduced to the honesty of the human form. But there is no shouting here, no chaotic clamour of the marketplace. The sounds of the Palaestra are rhythmic, low and guttural, forming a quiet, pulsing soundtrack to the scene. You hear the heavy, muffled thud of a leather ball striking a wall, followed by the soft slap of a hand catching it. Thud, slap, thud, slap. It is a metronome of discipline. Further away there is the sound of wrestling, the wet skid of skin against skin, the grunt of exertion pushed out through clenched teeth, the dull impact of a body landing in the soft sand. These sounds do not disturb the peace. They deepen it. They are the sounds of focus, of the mind narrowing down to the singular point of physical effort. You find a space near the edge of the colonnade where a stripe of shadow meets the sun. You stand still, closing your eyes for a moment, and simply listen to the breathing. It is all around you, a collective respiration. You hear the sharp, quick intake of breath from a sprinter starting his run, the long, slow exhalation of a man lifting heavy weights, the steady, rhythmic panting of the boxers. Your own breath slows to match the calmness of the space. You inhale deep through your nose, drawing the warm air down into your lungs. It smells of hot silica and dry earth, but also of something sharper, more organic. It is the smell of honest sweat, not the stale sweat of the unwashed crowds, but the fresh, clean sweat of exertion. And cutting through it all is the green, peppery scent of olive oil. You reach for the small clay aribalos, the round flask hanging from a leather thong at your wrist. The ceramic is warm to the touch, having absorbed the ambient heat. You pull the small cork stopper with a faint pop, and immediately the aroma intensifies. It is the smell of the sun-drenched hillsides of Tuscany or Spain, a rich, grassy, vegetative scent that speaks of summer and harvest. You tilt the flask over your palm. The oil flows out thick and viscous, a sluggish stream of liquid gold. It catches the light as it falls, an amber ribbon that pools in the cup of your hand. It feels heavy, substantial, more like a melted resin than a watery fluid. You rub your hands together, the oil slick and warm between your palms, heating up further from the friction. Then you bring your hands to your arms. The sensation is exquisite. The oil coats your dry skin, sealing it, creating a glistening barrier between you and the world. You work it into the muscles, your thumbs pressing deep into the bicep, the forearm, the shoulder. The friction generates a heat that penetrates below the surface, loosening the fibers, waking up the blood flow. You watch as your skin transforms, turning from a dull, matte pale to a shining, burnished bronze. You are becoming like a statue brought to life, gleaming in the afternoon sun. You pour more oil, moving to your chest, your stomach. The scent rises up, enveloping you in a cloud of green, olive, and earth. It is a ritual of self-care, a moment of acknowledging the vessel that carries you through life. The oil feels protective, a layer of armor that will trap the heat and encourage the sweat to flow. It smooths over the roughness of the day, the dry patches, the tired spots. You can feel the texture of your own skin changing under your fingers, becoming supple and elastic. You continue the motion, rhythmic and slow, matching the cadence of the exercises around you, rubbing the oil into your thighs, your calves, feeling the tension in the muscles dissolve under the pressure of your hands and the warmth of the golden liquid. You are preparing the canvas. You are telling your body that it is time to wake up, time to heat up, time to prepare for the intense purification of the hot rooms that lie ahead. Around you, the dust motes dance in the shafts of sunlight, kicked up by the movement of feet in the sand. They swirl in the golden air, sticking to the oiled skin of the athletes, turning them into creatures of earth and gold. You stand there, glistening, coated in the sacred oil, your feet rooted in the warm sand, your breath deep and steady. You are part of the rhythm now. You are part of the Palaestra. The heavy lethargy of the city is gone, replaced by a quiet, vibrating readiness. You are slick, you are warm, and you are alive. You leave the bright, abrasive sunlight of the exercise courtyard behind you, turning your back on the dry heat and the gritty sand. The heavy bronze doors before you are already slightly ajar, and as you push them open, you do not merely enter a room, you enter a climate, you enter a different season entirely. This is the Tepidarium. The transition is soft, a gentle graduation rather than a shock, as the door closes behind you with a dull, heavy thud that vibrates through the floor. The world of sharp edges and blinding light is instantly erased. In its place, a warm, thick atmosphere wraps around you like a heavy blanket of damp velvet. The air here has weight. It presses against your skin with a gentle, persistent hydrostatic pressure, holding you, supporting you. It is humid but not choking. It is a perfect, curated balance, mimicking the air of a storm that has just broken in the height of summer. You take a breath and the air tastes different. It is no longer dusty and dry. It tastes of water, of heated stone, and of a faint, sweet minerality. It is a wet, round taste that coats your tongue and throat, soothing the dryness of your exertion. You can feel the moisture instantly settling on your skin, mingling with the olive oil you applied earlier. The oil does not wash away. Instead, under the influence of this warm humidity, it softens, turning into a slick, warm glaze that makes your limbs feel heavy and languid. You stand there for a moment in the entrance, just breathing. The silence here is profound. It is not the empty silence of a desert, but the thick, muffled silence of a room filled with vapor. The steam is not a blinding fog, but a translucent haze, a soft gauze that hangs in the air, blurring the distance. It softens the architectural lines, making the stone walls look as if they are dissolving into the atmosphere. The sounds of the baths, the splash of water, the murmur of voices, are dampened by the moisture, reaching your ears as soft, distant echoes, as if you are hearing them from underwater. Your eyes, adjusting from the glare of the sun, begin to explore the space. You look up. The ceiling of the Tepidarium is a masterpiece of engineering and art, soaring high above you, a man-made sky of stone and mortar. It is a vast, barrel-vaulted expanse that seems to defy gravity, arching over the room with a protective, enclosing strength. The vault is not smooth, it is coffered, carved into deep, recessed squares that create a rhythmic, geometric pattern, stretching from one end of the hall to the other. In the dim, misty light, these coffers play a slow, hypnotic game of shadow and substance. The ridges of the squares catch the weak light filtering down from the high lunette windows, glowing with a pale, milky luminescence. The recesses, however, are pools of deep shadow, dark squares of mystery that seem to recede infinitely upwards. The light here is liquid. It enters through the high, semicircular windows, piercing the steam in clearly defined shafts. These beams of light are not static. They are alive with the movement of the suspended water vapor. You watch the swirling mists dance within the columns of light, a slow, churning motion like cream pouring into coffee. The light strikes the marble walls, which are veined with green and grey, and the wet stone reflects a shimmering, watery pattern onto the ceiling. It is as if the room itself is submerged, the light rippling and swaying with the phantom currents of an invisible ocean. You trace the curve of the arch with your eyes, following the line of the masonry down to the massive Corinthian capitals that support the roof. They are carved with acanthus leaves, but in the humidity, the stone leaves look almost real, glistening with condensation, as if they have been dipped in morning dew. The sheer scale of it makes you feel small but not insignificant. It makes you feel held. The architecture is designed to embrace, to curve around you, to create a womb of stone and steam where the outside world cannot reach. Drawn by the promise of rest, you move deeper into the room. The floor is smooth marble, warm to the touch of your bare feet. It is not scorching, but pleasantly heated, a warmth that radiates from deep within the earth. You approach one of the long marble benches that line the walls. It is a slab of polished stone, pink-hued and veined with white, solid and imposing. You turn and sit. The sensation is immediate and overwhelming. The stone is not cold, thanks to the hypocaust fires burning deep beneath the floor. The marble is radiated with a steady, penetrating heat. It meets the back of your thighs, your glutes, your lower back. It is a heat that feels as if it has a physical presence, moving from the stone into your body, bypassing the skin and sinking straight into the muscle. You lean back against the wall, which is also warm. You let out a long, shuddering breath, a sigh that seems to carry with it the last remnants of the day's tension. The reaction of your body is chemical, primal. You feel your shoulders drop, physically lowering 2 inches as the trapezius muscles, tight from holding yourself up against the world, finally surrender to the warmth. The knot in your lower back, the one that pulses with the rhythm of your walking, begins to uncoil. It feels like wax melting near a flame. The heat travels up your spine, vertebra by vertebra, a slow wave of relaxation that tingles as it moves. Your legs, heavy from the sand of the Palaestra, feel as though they are turning to liquid. The blood vessels dilate, opening up, and you can feel the slow, heavy throb of your own pulse in your fingertips and your temples. You close your eyes. The darkness behind your eyelids is warm and orange. You are conscious of nothing but the sensation of contact, the hard, warm stone supporting your weight, the moist, warm air filling your lungs, and the slick, warm oil on your skin. The boundaries of your body seem to blur. Where does your skin end and the warm air begin? It is hard to tell. You are becoming part of the room. There is a profound stillness in this heat. It is a sedative. Your thoughts, which were racing with the noise of the Via Appia and the calculations of the market, slow down to a crawl. They become slippery and hard to hold, sliding away into the mist. You do not want to think. You only want to feel. You shift slightly on the bench, finding a position of absolute comfort, and the friction of your oiled skin against the warm marble makes a faint, wet sound. A single drop of condensation falls from the high vaulted ceiling, landing with a soft plip in a pool of water somewhere in the distance. The sound ripples through the quiet, emphasizing the peace rather than disturbing it. You are safe here. You are warm. The cold reality of the Empire is 1,000 miles away, on the other side of the walls. Here, there is only the heat, the stone, and the slow rhythmic expansion of your own chest as you drift deeper and deeper into the warm embrace of the Tepidarium. You sit there, heavy and loose in the damp warmth of the Tepidarium, your skin slick with oil and condensation. You feel the solid, reassuring heat radiating from the marble bench beneath your thighs and the floor beneath your feet. It feels natural, does it not? As if the stone itself were alive, possessing its own body heat, like a sleeping beast. But let your mind drift away from the sensation of your own relaxation for a moment. Let your imagination sink downwards. Let it seep through the pores of the polished white marble, past the layer of heavy mortar, and descend into the dark, secret world that lies just inches beneath your soles. If you could ghost through the floor, you would find yourself suspended over a void. You would be floating in the hypocaustum, the hollow space that serves as the lungs of this great stone giant. It is a subterranean landscape of geometry and fire, a place of suffocating heat and utter darkness that no bather ever sees, yet upon which their entire pleasure depends. Beneath the floor, the ground is not solid earth. Instead, you would see a forest of short, sturdy pillars. These are the Palaestras, thousands of them. They stand in perfect grid-like formation, row upon infinite row, stretching away into the gloom like a silent miniature army frozen in attention. Each pillar is roughly 2 feet high, constructed from square tiles of red brick, stacked one atop the other, with thick layers of clay mortar sandwiched between them. They are the atlases of this underworld. Upon their narrow ceramic shoulders rests the entire weight of the bathhouse floor, the suspensura. They hold up the heavy concrete, the beautiful mosaics, the marble benches, and the hundreds of people walking above. They bear this crushing load in silence, standing in the sweltering dark, spaced just widely enough for a man to crawl between them to clean the soot, but close enough to support the world above. The air down here is a physical force. It is not merely hot, it is scorching. It is a dry, dusty inferno that circulates in the spaces between the brick stacks. The ground between the pillars is covered in a layer of fine grey ash and black soot, the residue of 1,000 fires. If you were to touch one of these brick pillars, your skin would blister instantly. They are soaked in heat, absorbing the thermal energy from the air and conducting it upwards, slowly, steadily, into the floor above. It is a battery of thermal mass, a reservoir of energy that ensures the floor remains warm long after the fires have dimmed. But the heat does not simply sit here in this basement of pillars. It is restless. It seeks to rise. And here is where the genius of the engineering reveals itself, not as stone and mortar, but as a living circulatory system. Follow the heat as it migrates to the edges of the room. It flows like a slow, invisible river of hot gas, drifting between the pilly stacks until it hits the perimeter walls. Here, it does not stop. The walls of the Tepidarium are not solid blocks of stone. They are a lie, a beautiful deception. Behind the polished marble facing, behind the frescoes of nymphs and river gods, there is a hollow network of veins. These are the tubuli. They are rectangular, box-like clay pipes, stacked one on top of another to form vertical chimneys hidden inside the walls. They act exactly as the veins and arteries in your own body. Just as your blood carries warmth from your heart to your fingertips, these ceramic channels carry the hot gases from the hypocaust up through the very skin of the building. Visualize the smoke and heat rushing into these narrow throats. It swirls upwards, dark and acrid, invisible to the eyes of the bathers, but vital to their comfort. As the hot gas ascends through the tubuli, it heats the clay of the pipes. The clay heats the mortar heats the marble facing, and finally the marble radiates that gentle, encompassing warmth that you feel against your back as you lean against the wall. It is a continuous, flowing cycle. The building is breathing. It inhales the fire from below, circulates the heat through its hollow walls, and finally exhales the spent smoke through vents hidden high in the roof, releasing it into the Roman sky. You are sitting inside a machine designed to harvest fire and transmute it into leisure. And what drives this machine? What pushes the heat through the floor and up the walls? You must cast your mind even further back, tracing the heat to its source. Follow the draft against the current, back through the forest of brick pillars, towards the opening at the far end of the subfloor void. There, outside the elegant sanctuary of the bathhouse proper, lies the Prefernium. This is the mouth of the furnace. This is the heart of the beast. Here, the scene is not one of marble and oil and quiet reflection. It is a scene of sweat, soot, and labor. In a sunken service yard, stripped to the waist, slaves toil before the gaping maw of the furnace. The fire is a roaring, hungry thing, a captive dragon that demands constant feeding. The air here shimmers and distorts with the intensity of the flames. The slaves shovel wood, great logs of oak and beech, seasoned to burn hot and slow, into the tunnel that leads under the floor. The curtain. Fire consumes the wood with a crackling roar, sending a blast of superheated air rushing into the void beneath the piley. It is a violent, primal energy. It is the raw power of nature, harnessed and funneled into the service of civilization. This is the profound paradox of the baths. The serenity you feel, the languid relaxation of your muscles, the gentle warmth that feels like a summer breeze. It is all born from fire. It is born from the burning of forests, the labor of men in the soot-choked dark, the roaring combustion of the furnace. The building is a living organism. The furnace is its heart, pumping the lifeblood of heat. The hypocaust is its stomach, digesting the energy. The tubuli are its veins, distributing the warmth to the extremities. And you, the bather, are the beneficiary of this invisible biology. You are resting in the palm of a giant that is constantly burning, constantly breathing, constantly working to keep the cold at bay. When you wiggle your toes on the warm floor, you are touching the ceiling of a dungeon of fire. When you lean your head back against the wall, you are resting against a chimney that channels the breath of the furnace. The warmth is not magic. It is something far more impressive. It is the conquest of the elements, the channeling of a wild, destructive force into a gentle, invisible embrace that cradles you in the dark. The silence of the Tepidarium is merely the mask worn by the roaring fire below. You stand before the final door. The bronze handle is hot to the touch, a warning of the intensity that lies beyond. You wrap your hand around it, feeling the heat seep into your palm, and push. The door is heavy, weighted to keep the atmosphere inside from escaping, but it yields slowly. As the seal breaks, a billow of white vapor rolls out to meet you, curling around your ankles like a living creature, tasting the cooler air of the Tepidarium before dissolving. You step through the threshold and the heavy door closes behind you with a wet, muffled thud. You have entered the Caldarium. You have entered the heart of the cloud. The world you knew, the world of distinct shapes and sharp edges, has ceased to exist. Here, visibility is reduced to the length of your own arm. The air is thick, white, and opaque, a dense fog that does not hang passively but swirls and moves with its own sluggish currents. It is a suffocating, beautiful blindness. The grand architecture, the soaring vaults, the marble columns, they are all gone, swallowed by the steam. You are standing in a white void, a blank page of existence. The heat here is aggressive. It is not the polite warmth of the Tepidarium. It is a fierce, demanding heat that strikes you the moment you enter. It feels heavy on your chest, forcing you to change the way you breathe. You cannot take sharp, shallow breaths here. The air is too rich, too full of water. You must breathe slowly, drawing the hot, wet atmosphere deep into your lungs, letting it expand. Your rib cage. It tastes of boiled water, of clean mineral stone, and the faint, coppery tang of extreme humidity. You pause, letting your body adjust. You can feel your pores opening wide, a biological surrender to the environment. The sweat starts instantly, but in this humidity, it cannot evaporate. It streams down your face, your back, your chest, mingling with the condensation that settles on your skin. You are becoming liquid. The boundary between the water in the air and the water in your body is dissolving. You are no longer a solid object moving through space. You are a fluid element merging with the steam. Because you cannot see, your world shrinks down to the immediate. You are intensely aware of yourself, without the distraction of sight, without the ability to observe others or admire the mosaics. Your attention turns inward. You become aware of the heavy beat of your heart, thumping a little faster now in response to the heat. You feel the slide of a single drop of water tracking down your spine. You feel the weight of your own arms hanging by your sides. It is a forced meditation. The fog strips away your social identity even more effectively than the changing room did. Here, you are not a citizen, not a father, not a merchant. You are simply a consciousness floating in the mist. As you stand there wrapped in the white blanket, your ears begin to pick out the details of the silence. It is a wet, cavernous silence, amplified and distorted by the moisture. The steam acts as a dampener, killing the echo of voices, making them sound flat and distant, like ghosts whispering in another room. But there is one sound that cuts through the fog with crystalline clarity. Plep. It comes from above. You tilt your head back, looking up into the swirling greyness. You cannot see the dome that arches high above you, but you know it is there. The hot steam rises, carrying the heat from the floor and the pools up to the highest point of the room. There, it meets the cooler surface of the concrete vault. It condenses, turning from gas back into liquid, gathering on the curved ceiling in heavy, trembling droplets. Plip. Another drop falls. It hits the surface of the water in the central basin with a precise, musical note. It is a lonely, rhythmic sound. In the dense atmosphere, it sounds incredibly loud, a small percussion instrument playing a slow, endless song. Plip, plip, plip. It is hypnotic. You find yourself waiting for the next one, counting the seconds in the silence. It is the sound of the building sweating. It is the sound of the cycle of water, rising and falling, mimicking the rain and the clouds outside. Occasionally a drop might miss the pool and strike the stone floor, a sharper, flatter sound, or perhaps splash against the shoulder of a bather hidden in the mist, followed by a sharp intake of breath and a low murmur of surprise. These sounds are the only coordinates you have in this white expanse. They tell you the size of the room, the height of the dome, the presence of others. They are sonar in the fog. Guided by the sound of the water, you move forward. You walk slowly, your bare feet finding traction on the wet, hot marble floor. You navigate by touch and by sound, reaching out a hand until your fingers brush against the smooth, curved rim of the alveus, the hot water pool. The stone of the rim is scalding, heated by the water within. You sit on the edge for a moment, letting your legs dangle into the steam that hovers just above the surface. You look down, but you cannot see the bottom. The water is a dark, churning mystery, veiled by the mist. You can feel the heat radiating from it, hitting your shins, promising an intensity that will test your limits. You slide in. The sensation is shocking. The water is hot, bordering on unbearable. But as you submerge, the pain transforms instantly into a deep, throbbing pleasure. It grips your ankles, then your calves, then your thighs. It is a heavy, enveloping embrace. The water here is not like a river or the sea. It is still and thick, heated to a temperature that matches the blood in your veins. You lower yourself further, the water rising to your waist, your chest, until it laps against your chin. You find a seat on the submerged step, leaning your head back against the rim. You are weightless. The buoyancy of the water lifts the heaviness of gravity from your bones. Your limbs float freely, drifting in the hot current. This is the peak of the experience. This is what the furnace roared for. This is what the slaves toiled for. This is what the aqueducts carried the water for. This single moment of total immersion. The heat penetrates everything. It sinks deep into your muscles, finding the deepest aches, the oldest tensions, and dissolving them. You feel your heartbeat slowing down, heavy and powerful, booming in your ears, which are now just above the waterline. The blood rushes to your skin, flushing it red, carrying away the toxins, carrying away the fatigue. In this hot pool, surrounded by the white fog, time stops. There is no sun to mark the hour, no shadows to lengthen across the floor. There is only the heat and the water. You lose the sense of where your body ends and the water begins. The skin, usually the barrier that separates you from the world, seems to become permeable. You feel expansive, as if you have dissolved into the pool, as if you are the water, and the water is you. Thoughts of the past and the future evaporate like the steam rising from the surface. There is no Via Appia, no dusty road, no business deals, no family squabbles. There is only this eternal, suspended present. A state of pure physical feeling. You close your eyes, shutting out the white mist, and float in the darkness behind your lids. You are held. You are safe. You are clean. You exist only as a point of warmth in a universe of water. From somewhere high above, in the invisible dome, another drop of condensation grows too heavy to hold on. It falls through the steam, a silent silver bullet, and strikes the water near your shoulder. Plip. The ripple spreads out, rocking you gently, a tiny wave in your private ocean, whispering that you are here and you are alive. You pull yourself slowly from the depths of the hot pool, your body heavy and languid, water cascading from your limbs in thick, steaming sheets. You find a seat on the low marble bench nearby, the stone warm and solid beneath you. Your skin is flushed a deep, healthy pink, pulsating with the heat it has absorbed, and it glistens with a slick mixture of sweat, the condensation of the room, and the olive oil you applied so long ago in the courtyard. You are wet, you are warm, and you are softened, but the ritual is not yet complete. The heat has loosened the grip of the city upon your body, but now it must be physically removed. You reach for the strigil. It is a simple, elegant tool, curved like a sickle, forged from bronze that has dullened to the colour of old honey. It feels substantial in your hand, a weight that balances perfectly in the palm. The metal is warm, having shared the temperature of the room, so there is no shock as you bring the curved blade to rest against your forearm. You angle it slightly, finding the perfect degree where the edge bites gently into the layer of oil and dead skin without scratching the living flesh beneath. And then you begin the motion. It is a long, slow, deliberate pull. You draw the bronze blade down the length of your arm, from the elbow to the wrist. The sensation is unique, a deeply satisfying friction that walks the fine line between a scrape and a caress. You watch as the edge of the strigil gathers the mixture of oil, dust, and perspiration. It piles up in the curve of the blade, a grey, viscous substance that represents everything you are leaving behind. This is the dust of the Via Appia. This is the smoke of the hearth. This is the stress of the marketplace. It is all being harvested from your skin, physically separated from you. You flick the blade, discarding the grey paste onto the floor, and return the bronze to your skin. Scrape. The sound is soft and wet, a hushed whip that repeats with hypnotic regularity. It is not a harsh, metallic rasp, but a muted, fluid sound dampened by the oil. Slide, lift, flick. You move to your shoulder, working the blade over the deltoid muscle. The repetition becomes a trance. There is no rush here. The purpose of the strigil is thoroughness, a meditative grooming that requires patience. You close your eyes, feeling the path of the metal as it contours over the landscape of your body. It traces the collarbone, it glides down the bicep, it follows the long line of the thigh. With every stroke you feel a little lighter. It is as if you are carving yourself anew, peeling away a layer of dull, tired existence to reveal the fresh, untouched statue underneath. The rhythm of the scraping becomes the only measure of time. Slide, lift, flick. It is a lullaby of friction. The world narrows down to the sensation of the bronze edge moving over your skin, the feeling of the pores being unclogged, the satisfying removal of weight. You are molting. You are shedding the day like a snake sheds its old, tight skin. The tension that was trapped in the fascia, the grit that was embedded in the pores, it is all being gathered up and cast aside. When the scraping is done, your skin feels raw and open, tingling with a new sensitivity. You set the strigil down. It clatters softly against the stone bench, its work finished. Now you reach for the patera, the shallow silver bowl resting on the rim of the basin. You dip the bowl into a nearby urn of warm water. The vessel fills with a glug, becoming heavy in your hand. You lift it, the water trembling at the brim, catching the dim light of the room like liquid glass. You hold it over your shoulder, tilting your wrist just so. The water falls. It does not hit you with force. It lands on your skin with a heavy, soft splash, a warm cascade that instantly spreads out, chasing gravity down your body. The sound is delicious, a rich, splashing gurgle that echoes softly in the steam-filled room. The water runs in rivulets over the path the strigil has just cleared. It is the final purge. The warm stream washes away any lingering traces of oil, any last remnants of the grey paste. You watch the water run down your chest, your stomach, your legs. It flows clear and bright, carrying nothing but heat. You dip the bowl again. Splash. You pour it over your other shoulder. The sensation is one of absolute purity. The water feels different now than it did in the pool. Before, it was a medium you were suspended in. Now, it is a tool of revelation. It feels wetter somehow, closer to the nerves. You pour a third bowl, this time over your head. The water rushes through your hair, over your forehead, blinking your eyes shut as the warm torrent streams over your face. It traces the line of your nose, your lips, your chin, dripping off onto your chest. For a moment, you're encased in a moving waterfall, a cocoon of falling sound and warmth. You set the bowl down and run your hands over your arms. The feeling is startling. Your skin has been transformed. It is no longer the rough, dusty hide that walked into the baths an hour ago. It is impossibly smooth, polished like the finest marble of the statues in the forum. But unlike marble, it is warm and alive. It feels as though your skin can finally breathe. You can feel the air of the room touching you, a subtle, ghost-like caress that you were numb to before. The heavy, oily barrier is gone. You feel naked in the truest sense of the word, not just unclothed, but unshielded. You look at your hands, at the water beading on your forearms. The skin glows. It has a translucency to it, a vibrancy that speaks of blood flow and cleanliness. You feel a profound sense of lightness, a physical buoyancy that has nothing to do with water. The weight of the Roman day, the grime of the empire, the heaviness of duty, it is all gone, washed down the drain, leaving you here on the bench, raw and new and perfectly, quietly clean. You take a deep breath, and for the first time, the air feels like it is entering not just your lungs, but every single pore of your being. You leave the cleansing ritual of the strigil behind. your skin raw and renewed, and move towards the final threshold. You are leaving the intimate womb-like progression of the hot rooms. The air around you is still warm, clinging to your damp body, but as you approach the monumental archway that marks the entrance to the Frigidarium, you feel a change in the currents. There is a draft. It is not a wind, but a subtle, shifting wall of air that carries the scent of fresh water and vast open stone. You cross the boundary. The sensation is one of sudden, breathtaking expansion. If the Caldarium was a cave, the Frigidarium is a canyon. You have stepped into the great hall, the architectural crescendo of the entire complex. The ceiling does not just rise, it soars. It leaps upwards, defying the logic of stone, vaulting so high that the details of the coffered concrete are lost in the atmospheric haze of the upper reaches. The air here is distinct. It is cool. It is crisp. It possesses a crystalline quality, a sharpness that strikes the back of your throat with every inhale. It is a shock to the system after the cloying humidity of the steam rooms. It wakes you up. The heaviness of the heat is stripped away, replaced by an electric sense of alertness. You can feel the coolness settling on your flushed skin, a ghostly touch that raises goose flesh on your arms, contrasting deliciously with the heat that still radiates from your core. You walk towards the center of the hall. The scale of the room is designed to humble you. Massive columns of Egyptian granite, grey and rose-colored, rise up like the trunks of titan trees to support the groin-vaulted roof. They are polished to a glass-like sheen, reflecting the light that pours in from the colossal clerestory windows high above. The light here is not the diffused, mysterious gloom of the hot rooms. It is bright, white, and unforgiving. It floods the space, illuminating the intricate patterns of the polychrome marble floor, making the reds of the porphyry and the greens of the serpentine stone pop with vibrant intensity. In the center of this cathedral of water lies the cold pool. It is a vast rectangle of stillness. There is no steam rising from its surface. There are no ripples. The water is a perfect flat mirror, reflecting the soaring vaults above with absolute fidelity. It looks like a sheet of blue glass. It looks cold. You approach the edge. You can feel the temperature of the water radiating towards you, an invisible barrier of chill. Your body, still deeply heated from the furnace of the Caldarium, craves this final shock. It is the necessary closing of the circle. You step onto the marble rim. You do not hesitate. You cannot hesitate, or the mind will rebel. You step down. The cold is absolute. It hits your ankles like a band of iron. You gasp, a sharp, involuntary intake of breath that fills your lungs with the cool air of the hall. You continue your descent. The water rises to your knees, your thighs, your waist. It is a profound physical awakening. The lethargy of the heat is shattered, Every nerve ending in your body, previously lulled to sleep by the steam, now fires at once. You slide fully into the water, submerging up to your neck. The reaction is immediate. You feel your skin tighten, snapping taut against the muscle. The pores, which had been gaping wide to release sweat, slam shut, sealing your body against the elements. The blood, which had been pooling at the surface of your skin to cool you down, is driven deep into your core, rushing to protect your vital organs. You feel a surge of energy, a rush of adrenaline that starts in your chest and shoots out to your fingertips. It is not painful, it is clarifying. It is as if you have been asleep for hours and someone has just thrown open the curtains to a bright winter morning. The fog in your mind, the dreamy, drifting state of the Tepidarium, evaporates instantly. Your thoughts become sharp, lucid, and precise. You can feel the boundaries of your body clearly again. You are solid. You are present. You are here. You tread water in the center of the pool, feeling the delicious contrast between your internal heat and the external cold. You are a vessel of fire floating in ice. The water feels cleaner here, lighter than the heavy, mineral-laden water of the hot pools. It feels charged with life. You take a deep breath, and the air tastes sweet and cold. You look around the vast hall from your vantage point in the water, seeing the other bathers not as shadowy ghosts in the mist, but as distinct, sharp figures, their skin glowing with health, their movements brisk and energetic. You climb out of the pool, water streaming from your body in cold rivulets. You reach for a linen towel, wrapping it around your shoulders, rubbing briskly to generate friction. Your skin is cool to the touch now, firm and smooth as alabaster. You begin to walk across the vast expanse of the floor towards the exit, and now you hear it. Click, your footstep on the hard stone. Click, click, click. The sound does not stay on the floor. It takes flight. It travels up the fluted sides of the granite columns, up into the vast, curved bellies of the cross vaults, and then it returns. Click, click. The echo is magnificent. It is a long, rolling reverberation that hangs in the air for seconds, overlaying the sound of the next step. The Frigidarium is a musical instrument, tuned to the frequency of human movement. The vast open space, unencumbered by heavy curtains or low ceilings, captures every sound and elevates it, turning the simple act of walking into a solemn procession. The acoustics transform the space into something more than a bathhouse. It feels sacred. The architecture, the central nave, the side aisles, the soaring height. It evokes a sense of awe that transcends the physical. This is the blueprint of the basilica, the shape of power and judgment, the form that will one day house the altars of a new god. But for now, it is a temple to the body and the mind. As you walk, the echo of your steps mingles with the distant murmur of conversation from the other side of the hall. The voices sound different here, clear, resonant, lacking the muffled intimacy of the small rooms. They sound like the voices of orators, of senators, of free men discussing the affairs of the world. You stop in the center of the nave, looking up one last time at the ceiling, miles above your head. You feel small, yet paradoxically, you feel infinite. The cold water has scrubbed your mind clean. The vast architecture has expanded your spirit. You are no longer the dusty traveller who stumbled in from the Via Appia. You are renewed. You are clear. You stand in the centre of the Frigidarium, surrounded by the echoes of Rome, possessing a mind as sharp as the winter air and a body as cool and solid as the marble beneath your feet. The ritual is complete. You are ready to return to the world. You step out from the colossal shadow of the Frigidarium, moving through the high arched porticos and into the open air. The fierce, blinding white sun that scorched the Via Appia hours ago has been tamed. It has dipped low in the western sky, transforming into a swollen orb of deep, burning orange. The day is dying, and in its final moments, it bathes the world in a light that is thick, heavy, and incredibly beautiful. You are in the outer gardens now, the xystus. The transition from the enclosed, echoing stone halls to this organic space is like a sigh of relief. The air here is moving, a gentle evening breeze that rustles the dark, vertical shapes of the cypress trees. They stand like sentinels against the gold and violet sky, their needles whispering secrets to the wind. The ground beneath your sandals has changed again. You are walking on fine, crushed white gravel. It makes a crisp, rhythmic sound with every step, a satisfying crunch that punctuates the quiet. Crunch, crunch, crunch. It is a drier, sharper sound than the sand of the Palaestra, a sound that speaks of order and manicured nature. As you walk, the heat of the day, which has been trapped in the earth and the plants, begins to rise. The gardens are exhaling. The air is heavy with the resinous, pine-scented perfume of the cypresses, mingled with the medicinal, sharp aroma of rosemary hedges that line the path. You brush your hand against a bush of lavender as you pass, and the scent explodes into the air, a cloud of purple fragrance that settles in your nose, calming the mind, signaling that the time for exertion is over. The time for rest has truly begun. Long shadows stretch across the gravel, violet fingers of darkness reaching out from the statues and the columns, pointing the way toward the night. The birds are singing their evening chorus, a chaotic melodic chatter of sparrows and finches settling into the eaves of the great bathhouse behind you. It is a peaceful, melancholy time of day, suspended between the energy of the light and the sleep of the dark. Your body feels light, scrubbed clean, the muscles loose and warm, your skin breathing in the cooling air. You feel a profound sense of emptiness, but it is a good emptiness. It is a clean slate, ready to be written upon. You follow the path as it curves gently toward the perimeter of the complex, where two identical rectangular halls flank the great reservoir. These are the libraries. You approach the entrance of the nearest one, the Greek library. The doorway is flanked by columns of yellow marble, glowing like embers in the sunset. You cross the threshold, and for the third time today, the atmosphere shifts completely. The smell hits you first. It is one of the most distinct, evocative scents in the ancient world. It is the smell of dry thyme. It is a complex bouquet of papyrus reeds harvested from the Nile, dried and pressed into sheets, carrying a faint, grassy memory of the river. It is the smell of parchment, the stretched and cured skin of animals, rich and organic. Underlying it all is the sharp, clean scent of cedar wood oil, used to anoint the scrolls, to protect them from worms and rot. And finally, there is the smell of ink, carbon and gum, a dark metallic acridity that hangs faintly in the still air. The room is silent, but it is a different kind of silence than the watery hush of the Tepidarium or the cavernous echo of the Frigidarium. This is a dry, studious silence. It is a silence that demands respect. The walls are lined with 2 tiers of wooden cupboards, the armaria. Their doors are open, revealing the honeycomb ends of thousands of scrolls, tagged with small slips of leather identifying their contents. The light here is carefully controlled. It streams in from high windows, avoiding direct contact with the precious books, falling instead in slanted, dusty beams across the mosaic floor. You watch the dust motes dancing in these shafts of light. They move slower here, it seems, undisturbed by the moisture of the baths. They are particles of wisdom floating in the ether. You hear the faint rustle of a scroll being unrolled by a scholar in the corner. Crackle, slide. It is a sound like dry leaves blowing over stone. He is reading perhaps a treatise on philosophy or a play by Euripides. You do not disturb him. You simply stand there, breathing in the cedar and the papyrus, feeling the proximity of so many words, so many thoughts trapped in ink. It is a sanctuary for the mind. After the intense focus on the body, the muscles, the skin, the sweat, this room offers a balance. It reminds you that you are not just meat and bone, but spirit and intellect. The library cools the mind just as the Frigidarium cooled the blood. You turn and walk slowly back out towards the portico where the statuary is displayed. The Romans do not hide their art, they live with it. Here, in the quiet alcoves between the library and the gardens, the gods and heroes stand in eternal repose. The sun is dipping below the horizon now, and the statues are bathed in a soft grey twilight. They seem to glow with an inner luminescence, the white Carrara marble absorbing the last of the day's light and holding it within the stone. You stop before a massive figure. It is Hercules. But this is not the Hercules of the 12 Labours. This is not the hero mid-swing, veins bulging, club raised to strike the Hydra. This is the weary Hercules. He stands leaning heavily on his club, which is propped under his armpit, covered by the skin of the Nemean lion. His massive body, a landscape of exaggerated muscle and power, is slumped. His head is bowed, his gaze cast downwards towards the earth. You look at the carving of his torso. The sculptor has rendered the exhaustion with heart-breaking precision. The heavy pectorals sag slightly. The stomach protrudes in a posture of total relaxation. You can almost feel the weight of his fatigue. He has done his work. He has fought the monsters. And now he is tired. There is a profound solidarity in this moment. You, the bather, fresh from the trials of the heat and the cold, stand before the demigod who is also resting. You trace the line of his massive shoulder with your eyes. Even the strongest, the stone says, must stop. Even the son of Zeus needs a moment of stillness. Nearby, a statue of a river god reclines on a stone plinth, pouring water from an urn that never empties. His face is serene, his beard wet and flowing like the currents he commands. He looks out over the darkening garden with blank white eyes that see everything and nothing. He is completely at peace, indifferent to the passage of time. You stand there in the deepening shadow, surrounded by these silent giants. The only sound now is the distant chirping of crickets beginning their night song and the wind whispering through the cypress trees. The library behind you holds the words of men, but these statues hold the silence of the gods. You feel a deep, settling calm. It is a stillness that goes deeper than the relaxation of the muscles. It is a quietness of the soul. The noise of the city, the chaos of the empire, the demands of your own life. They all feel very far away, diminished by the scale of the baths and the timeless gaze of the stone heroes. You are just another shadow in the garden, breathing in the scent of rosemary and old paper, watching the night claim the eternal city. You are clean, you are calm, you are whole. The great golden eye of the sun has finally closed, slipping beneath the horizon to rest in the waters of the western sea. In its wake, the sky has deepened from the bruised purple of twilight into a rich, velvety indigo. The transition is complete. The day of the empire, with its shouting merchants and marching legions, has officially ended. Now the night belongs to the shadows and to the quiet flame. You stand near the edge of the great colonnade, watching the ritual that marks the closing of the baths. It is a ceremony as precise and rhythmic as the flow of water itself. From the darkened recesses of the service corridors, the attendants emerge. They move silently, their sandaled feet making no sound on the marble, ghost-like figures dressed in simple, undyed wool. They carry the bringers of light. In their hands they hold long tapered wax tapers, already burning with a steady yellow flame. They move towards the iron candelabras and the terracotta lamps that are set into niches along the walls. These lamps are simple vessels, small clay boats filled with oil, a floating wick waiting for the kiss of fire. You watch as the first attendant reaches up. The flame touches the wick. There is a tiny, audible hiss as the oil catches, a sound like a sharp intake of breath. A small sphere of light blooms into existence, pushing back the encroaching dark. It is a warm amber light, softer and more forgiving than the sun. It does not reveal flaws, it creates mystery. Then the second lamp is lit, then the third. The process ripples through the vast complex like a wave of fireflies waking up in a meadow. One by one the alcoves are illuminated. The vast cavernous spaces of the Frigidarium and the changing halls are transformed. The soaring vaulted ceilings are lost in the upper darkness, but down here, at human height, the world becomes a place of flickering intimacy. The light from the oil lamps is not steady. It pulses and breathes with the draughts that wander through the halls. This movement brings the building to life in a new way. You watch the shadows. They detach themselves from the columns and the statues, stretching out across the floor like long, spindly fingers. They dance and sway, mimicking the unseen currents of the air. A statue of a discus thrower seems to twist in the flickering light, his shadow lunging forward and then retreating, caught in an eternal loop of motion. The face of a marble nymph seems to smile, then frown, then smile again as the light plays across her carved features. The smell of the burning oil begins to drift through the air. It is a homely, comforting scent, fatty and rich, tinged with the faint, sharp acridity of the charred linen wicks. It mingles with the cooling stone and the dampness, creating the unique perfume of the Roman night. It is the smell of safety, of civilization holding back the wild darkness of the world outside. You turn your gaze back towards the water one last time. You look through the archway into the great hall, where the surface of the cold pool lies still and black. The lamps do not reach far enough to illuminate the center of the gourd. Water. Instead, the pool has become a mirror for the night sky. Through the massive open oculi in the roof, the moon has appeared. It is a pale silver coin, hanging suspended in the square of darkness above. Its light falls in a single pristine column, cutting through the gloom of the bathhouse like a celestial spear. It strikes the surface of the water, creating a shimmering path of white light that floats on the black depth. The water is no longer just water. It looks like liquid metal, heavy and cold. The steam that rises from the distant hot rooms drifts into this shaft of moonlight. The vapor swirls and turns, illuminated in ghostly white ribbons against the dark. They look like spirits rising from the underworld, dancing their own slow, silent ballet before dissolving into the rafters. It is a vision of perfect stillness, the splashing, the laughter, the echoing footsteps of the day. They are all gone. The water has returned to its natural state of silence. It waits there, patient and heavy, holding the memory of the 1,000 bodies it has cleansed today, holding the reflection of the moon, waiting for the dawn. It is a beautiful, lonely sight, a reminder that the works of stone and water will outlast the fleeting warmth of flesh. You turn away. The image of the moon on the water is burned into your mind, a cool, calming mandala that you will carry with you. You wrap your heavy wool cloak tighter around your shoulders. The night air outside will be chill, but your body is still radiating the deep stored heat of the hypocaust. You are a walking furnace, insulated against the cold. You step out of the complex, passing the final gate. The sounds of the Via Appia have changed. The roar of the carts and the shouting of the mule drivers have been replaced by the chirping of crickets and the distant rhythmic barking of a guard dog. The city is asleep or settling into its hushed nocturnal rhythm. You begin to walk. Your pace is slow, unhurried. There is no urgency in your limbs anymore. The frenetic energy that drove you this morning, the need to get somewhere, to do something, has been washed away. Your legs feel heavy, but it is a delicious heaviness. It is the weight of muscles that have been worked, heated, cooled, and massaged into total submission. They move with a loose, fluid grace, swinging forward like pendulums. Your feet find the familiar pattern of the cobblestones. The stone is cool now through the soles of your sandals. Step, step, step. The rhythm is slower than your heartbeat. It is a lullaby you are playing for yourself. You are hyper-aware of the sensation of your own clothes. The linen tunic, fresh and dry, glides over your clean skin with every movement. It feels incredibly soft, devoid of the friction and sweat of the day. You feel clean, not just on the surface, but deep down, as if the water has washed the thoughts from your brain and the stress from your marrow. Your mind is a quiet, empty room swept clean of worries. The streets are dark, lit only by the occasional lantern hanging outside a tavern or the shrine of a household god. You pass closed shutters, behind which the people of Rome are sleeping. You feel a strange, gentle connection to them, a shared humanity in the quiet of the night. You are all resting under the same vast sky. The cool night air brushes against your face, touching your forehead, your cheeks. It smells of wood smoke now, from the cooking fires of the evening meal, and the faint, sweet scent of jasmine spilling over a garden wall. You breathe it in deep, filling your lungs with the sedative of the night. Your eyelids feel heavy, weighted with a pleasant drowsiness that creeps up from your neck to your skull. You are drifting, physically moving towards your home, but mentally already halfway to the world of dreams. The walk is not a chore, it is a transition. It is the final cooling down, the slow deceleration of the machine. You turn the corner, and there it is, the door to your home. It stands solid and welcoming in the shadows. You know that behind it lies a bed with a mattress of wool or straw, blankets that smell of lavender, and the final obliterating embrace of sleep. You stop for a moment, your hand resting on the wood of the door. You look up at the stars, scattered like diamond dust across the indigo vault. You take one last breath of the Roman night. You are warm, you are clean, you are at peace. You push the door open and step into the darkness of your home, leaving the memory of the baths behind you in the moonlight, ready to close your eyes and let the silence take you completely. And now, the last echo of water fades against the stone, and the steam drifts away. I gently close the heavy book, smoothing your story into silence. There, the tale is finished, but your rest is just beginning. You are safe here, protected by the quiet walls of the library. If you wish to return to this sanctuary tomorrow night, simply subscribe to our stillness, and I will keep the fire lit for you. But for now, let the darkness wrap around you like a warm towel. Sleep now, deep, soothing sleep. Good night.